This is the Minecraft Mangrove prison, designed by a viewer, and I have to break out of it. This was insanely hard and it took a lot of work, so please remember to like and subscribe. Enjoy the video. I spawned into the prison to find a set of rules and a start button. I couldn't break blocks, I couldn't take books, and blackstone pressure plates would clear my inventory. I noted the rules and started. Looking around, I saw a sign that gave me my goal for this room. 8 white glazed terracotta. I had to put them in that empty dropper, and I assumed that would open the door to my left. Not seeing anything on the top level, I went ahead and jumped down, having to MLG boat at the bottom, which I of course did effortlessly. I checked the hoppers, finding them empty, so I decided to break the boat chest to see if there was anything in that, and lo and behold, there was. It dropped 8 dripstone blocks, a shovel, a hoe, and 4 saplings. The shovel and the hoe were on very low durability, so I would have to be careful where to use those. I headed down the tunnel, finding nothing in the furnace, to find this button with a sign warning me that I could only press it once and that it would release water. I surveyed the room, finding this strange formation of moss blocks and redstone, headed down and realized what I had to do. I placed the dripstone on the netherite blocks so that they would be directly beneath the potential moss blocks above me, because I knew I could turn stone into moss blocks with bone meal. Now all I needed was bone meal, and I found some. I grabbed the bone meal, grabbed the TNT, and grabbed the ender pearl, and then headed down beneath the shulker into the room below. Seeing the ladder here at the end of the tunnel and noting the ender pearl in my inventory, I was pretty sure I needed to glitch through the roof, so I did, and found myself back in the room I was in before. I headed back into the room with the moss so that I could bone meal the stone as I had planned. I cleared the space on top of the moss to make sure that nothing would get in the way of the water or the saplings I was planning on placing on it eventually, placed the water, and grabbed as much as I could before it ran out. I decided that it was time to plant the tree. I knew I needed blocks, and I knew I couldn't break blocks, and I saw the redstone as a way to get blocks from the tree using the TNT. But at this point, I remembered the ultimate objective, white glazed terracotta, which meant I would need clay. I used the shovel and the hoe to turn the blocks directly above the dripstone back into dirt blocks so that I could get clay out of them. I knew that you could hydrate dirt blocks with water bottles, and that when you did, they turned into clay, which is exactly what I needed for the white glazed terracotta. So I went ahead and hydrated all of the dirt blocks, turning them into clay, and then got ready to place the TNT. I was a bit nervous about this part, so I made sure to stand back very, very far after placing the TNT on the redstone. I placed it on the far corner so that I would have plenty of room to run, but the leaf got in my way and I almost took damage. Thankfully, I made it out of the way in time and went back to collect the clay and the wood. I placed a second block of TNT just to make sure I would have enough wood, because I was pretty sure I wouldn't need TNT for anything else. Grabbed the wood, grabbed the clay, and started the process of making white glazed terracotta. I decided to use sticks instead of planks for the smelting because I figured that I might need more planks in the future, and I went ahead and crafted the clay and started smelting. The clay would turn into terracotta, and I would be able to use the bone meal to dye it white. While I was waiting on the furnace to finish smelting, I went ahead and used the planks to bridge up to the top so that I could be ready to place the white glazed terracotta as needed. I headed back down to check the furnace, found that the terracotta was done smelting, made a crafting table out of some of the planks in my inventory, made white dye from the bone meal, and then made white terracotta. All that was left to make white glazed terracotta was to run it through the furnace one more time, and I would be on to the next room. I headed up and placed the white glazed terracotta into the dropper. I briefly considered grabbing some more oak planks so that I could have plenty of blocks for the next room, but the sign at the beginning made me convinced that I was going to run over a blackstone pressure plate, and I did. My inventory cleared, I dropped into the next room. I ran straight ahead instead of checking off to the side, checked the hopper and found redstone items and an iron pick. Before heading off to the right, I made sure I hadn't missed anything, then headed right and dropped into the next room. As I dropped down, the door above me snapped shut and I was trapped inside. There were a lot of redstone contraptions in this very interesting room, and I started by just running around and seeing what I had to do. I noticed that there were 4 different rooms with redstone hooked up in all of them. And off to the side here, a redstone on top of a shulker box. I grabbed the redstone out of the shulker and continued my search. I didn't find anything else hidden, which made me believe that I had to hook redstone up through one of the rooms somehow to open up this door-looking contraption off to the side. The pistons were clearly there to pull those blocks back and reveal the path onto the next room, but I wasn't sure how to get the redstone hooked up. This mechanism looked incredibly complicated, and full disclosure, I am not that great at redstone. That being said, I did eventually figure out that I needed to start here and pull redstone across to the other room. One of the interesting properties of redstone repeaters is that they can allow redstone to be transmitted through blocks, therefore through walls. As you can see here, I hooked a redstone repeater up, and it allowed me, once I got it right, to let the redstone path travel through this wall. It's also important to note that there's carpet on the floor that prevented me from placing redstone in certain areas, like right there. Eventually, I got the redstone all the way around through the lantern, and it gave me this book. I headed over to the lectern because I was pretty sure that I needed to place the book on the lectern, and it lit up the lantern, allowing me to continue my redstone path. I broke all of the redstone I'd used on that section because I was pretty sure that I wouldn't have enough to continue building without that. And I started working around the redstone repeaters again, trying to get the redstone through this wall to connect to the door to hopefully pull the pistons and open up the door. Once I switched the repeater, half of the door clicked open, and I ran over excited, thinking I could go through, but unfortunately, the bottom was still blocked. I had another section of redstone to get through. I headed over here, and with a little bit of difficulty, managed to get it through the wall, all the way around to the door, where it opened up to the next room. It didn't take long to figure out that I'd already been here. With my iron pick, I was pretty sure I had to grab the dripstone, but running through the door that was now open confirmed it. I had to tower up 8 blocks using the dripstone, and I did. At the top, I found a barrel with wheat inside of it. I wasn't exactly sure what to do with this yet, so I just continued on down the path. As I dropped into the next room, a pressure plate cleared the iron pick from my inventory but left the wheat. I checked out the signs and got very nervous very quickly because they said that the warden would spawn if I didn't sneak very carefully. There was a dispenser in the corner that I checked, but there wasn't anything in it, so I continued down the hallway. Off to my right, there was a room that it looked like I would need to open up at some point, but there wasn't anything I could do about it right now, so I continued on. At the end of the hallway, I found several things, most notably a sign telling me not to shoot too quickly or the warden would notice. There were 3 targets, which made me believe that I had to shoot arrows at them to get into the next room. I found an iron trapdoor, which made me believe that I would probably have to spawn the warden in. I placed the trapdoor there to distract it, and the warden spawned. I realized that placing the trapdoor had given me access to a chest with 2 bows and 3 arrows in it. The bows freaked me out a little bit because they were power bows, but it didn't seem like I needed power bows, and it also seemed like they were both on 1 durability. So I combined them into 1 bow so that I would have enough to shoot the targets with the 3 arrows. This should give me 3 shots. I was incredibly careful not to shoot too quickly, waiting very long between every shot because I did not want to redo the entire prison at this point. The warden was stressing me out so much, especially because I couldn't see all the way down the hall, and I was terrified that it was going to stop, sniff, and notice me. Shooting the 3 targets did not open the door as I expected. Instead, it gave me this max strength potion. It was called Crit, which made me believe I had to hit the warden. Hit the warden with what, you may ask? I decided my fist. I got very close to it and briefly considered running back to drink the potion, drank the potion, and struck. I was successful. I collected what the warden dropped, placed it in front of the observer, and the door didn't quite open. It did turn to shulk, though. After a lot of deducing, I threw the glass bottle at this random little spot on the ground, saw it did nothing, and then saw the shears that it dropped. I used the shears to break through the door and headed in to the next room, very proud of myself for defeating the warden. The room was the room from the beginning, so I broke the chote because I figured I might need it at some point and headed upstairs to see if anything had changed. I dropped down the bit to the left to find a long hallway with a chest on one end, a trapdoor, and lava blocking me from getting up. I found a mud block, and this is when the wheat started to make a bit more sense because I knew I could craft packed mud with mud and wheat. I placed the block and used it to hop over the lava quite effortlessly and headed to the next section of this room. Rounding the corner, I found a long hallway with a drop at the end. I dropped down after making sure I hadn't missed anything to find another long hallway. And this hallway was a little bit cool because there was glass that allowed me to look into the room I'd been in before. I thought it was pretty neat, so I went back and took a second look before dropping into the next room. There were actually 2 rooms here, one with 3 buttons and 3 signs reading 49, 50, and 51, and one with a nether portal and what looked like a shulker box that was just out of reach. I wasn't even close to being able to reach up to the nether portal, and I figured that this room was my best bet, so I went ahead and dropped down. I wasn't sure what the buttons did, so I started hitting them randomly, because what else can you do with buttons? I figured out that it puts the piston at whatever level the button was placed at. And I assumed that the numbers on the signs corresponded to the drop below. So there was a 49 block drop right here. I tried the 49 block drop because I figured I could MLG in a chote, and it did not work. So I had to redo the level again. Here, I came back into the room with the warden and made a huge mistake, spawning it before I was supposed to. This made me incredibly nervous. I was sneaking around, and right here, I heard the warden sniff, which terrified me because I figured it would detect me very easily. Luckily, I made my way around this corner before it could detect me and started playing through the level. I grabbed the iron trapdoor to distract it and headed back, being very careful to sneak, hoping I could get past it to place the trapdoor and distract it. Honestly, I have no idea how I made it past the warden there. It definitely should have detected me, but I ended up being able to successfully place the trapdoor, and I hid in this corner until it ran over to the noise, distracted, so that I could sneak back and take my arrow shots. I made it back to the boat room without too much difficulty, and this time decided to try the 50 block drop to see if that would give me any more luck. I was pretty sure this is what I was supposed to do, but I was still a little bit nervous. Thankfully, I made it. I'm not exactly sure what mechanic allows this, so after a confused look in third person, I headed down the corridor to the next room. I looked around before dropping down, and I'm glad I did, because I found a dispenser with a frog egg in it blending in with the bedrock. I also found string at the ceiling level simply invisible, so I broke that and looked around the room. In the corner, there was a sign with a note block telling me that it would spawn magma cubes. I knew that when frogs killed magma cubes, they dropped frog lights, and I figured that this would be necessary for the rest of the room, so I spawned in a bunch of magma cubes and watched as the frog got to work, killing the magma cubes and dropping the frog lights for me. After I had collected enough, I used the frog lights to tower up into the next little area, proceeded through this strange little area, towering up with the frog lights until I finally made it into the next room. This room contained the nether portal that I had glimpsed from the room with the chote, so I went ahead and hopped into the nether portal, hoping that it would take me somewhere interesting to find a completely empty room. I headed back through the nether portal after making sure I wasn't missing anything to find that my location had changed. The portals linked up, and I was in a new room. There was a shulker box above me with a compass, so I grabbed it and dropped down. Finding myself in the chote room, this time with no chote, I was very confused until out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that one of the doors had opened at the bottom. After a little bit of deliberation, I took a leap of faith and landed on the door perfectly fine. I assumed that there would have been something to break my fall at the bottom. Since there wasn't, I guess I just got lucky with the bedrock breaking my fall. I hopped over to the next room to find 2 echo shards in a chest and headed around to see what I could do with them. The chest was trapped, and when I opened it, it opened up this little walkway so that I could get into the next area. I checked that hole, decided not to jump down it, and ran over to this room to find an ally and a button. Noting the 2 items in my inventory, I assumed I had to give one to the ally and throw the other one on the ground to get it to follow me somewhere, most likely the hole I'd seen before. I tossed one of the echo shards to the ally, but I was a bit confused and didn't want to press the button just yet, so I went down to see if I could figure out what it would do when I noticed this hole in the top. I was pretty sure at this point that when I pressed the button, the ally would come down, which would allow me to lead it out and to the hole. I did, I pressed the button, and the ally went down to go retrieve the other echo shard. I got the achievement and made a lifelong friend along the way. I got the ally out of that room and into the room with the hole with quite a bit of difficulty. But I made it, and eventually got the ally down the hole. I was a bit nervous here that it didn't work, but thankfully the ally came tumbling down after me, and I closed the door, keeping it in the room with me. I got distracted for a second and just messed around with the ally before looking in the room to find some slime blocks, a button, a piston, and a sign telling me to teleport into the next room. I threw one of the echo shards on the slime block, pressed the button, which forced it into the other room. The ally followed, and I teleported on over. The ally was in a little compartment, and there was a button above a dispenser that told me I needed an echo shard. There wasn't an echo shard in the chest, so I was a bit confused until I played the note block, which forced the ally to drop the echo shard into the chest. After a little bit of difficulty, eventually it worked. I grabbed the echo shard from the chest, put it into the dropper, pressed the button, and advanced to the next room. I found a crafting table to my left and a book to my right. I looked at the book, and it told me that I had 30 seconds to escape with the will-o-wisp, the ally, or I would be teleported back into this room and be stuck in the prison forever. I needed a recovery compass, and luckily there were 9 echo shards in the dispenser, which allowed me to craft one. I placed the recovery compass in the dropper, pressed the button, and ran out of the Mangrove prison. I had escaped, and luckily the ally followed without me even needing to throw the echo shard. Thank you so much for watching. This was so much fun to film. There will be more prison content on the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.